It's a new movie from Cartoon Saloon, the great Irish animation studio. It's Wolfwalkers, coming out December 2020 on Apple TV. Is this movie any good? Should you watch it? Would your kids like it? Let me answer those questions, reviewing it and analyzing it for you, coming up next. Wolfwalkers is the fourth animated feature-length film by the great Cartoon Saloon studio in Ireland. Some of the best animation, maybe ever, competitive with Pixar, with Studio Ghibli. I watch all their movies instantly. I think they are fantastic and fantastic looking. Wolfwalkers is set in the 17th century. It's about an English girl in Ireland. Her father is a soldier and a hunter, actually, in Ireland, working for the Lord Protector, an English overlord at the time. And her father is trying to hunt wolves down in the forest so that the forest can eventually be leveled, farmland can be made there, and that the town can expand for English and Irish settlement. Now, the girl finds out pretty quickly that their wolves are magical in the forest and that there is a little girl with the wolves. What is this little girl doing? Well, I won't give too much away, but we do find out in this movie that humans and wolves have a special relationship. And these wolfwalkers, mythical creatures, are humans who, when they fall asleep, turn into wolves while they're asleep, and they run around as literal wolves. And that's what happens to the little wild girl in the forest. So the English girl makes friends, eventually, with the wild Irish wolfwalker in the forest. And you might imagine that some of the townspeople and some of the English settlers become wolfwalkers in this movie. Now, first, this movie is absolutely stunning. I can't even believe it. Looking at it, the compositions, the colors, the whole thing, every frame, as the cliche goes, is a painting, and even the juxtapositions from shot to shot, they storyboarded this very well. If you're going to watch this movie, you're watching it for the visuals alone, and that will delight you. I have pretty firm confidence in saying, although I'm not a visual artist by trade, I can only say this as a viewer, but this is one of the best looking animated movies ever. So it's worth watching just for that alone. They've improved on their previous offerings, The Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea. This has the Irish folktale wistfulness of those movies, so you should definitely give this a try if you've liked Cartoon Saloon's previous efforts. Now, I must make some harsh judgments here, but really you should listen to my observations and see if they're your judgments too or not. I think this movie isn't as good as it could have been. I like Song of the Sea a lot better as a complex folktale, very nuanced. That's one of the best animated movies I think ever, Song of the Sea. I really like Secret of Kells too. Wolfwalkers is too simplistic for me, story-wise and theme-wise. It's a throwback to older Disney movies. They're trying to make, for example, a very clear evil villain in this movie, the Lord Protector, who's English and who's a Christian and who's a dominant tyrant. He is so evil, you have to say evil in all caps with a lot of exclamation marks to really fully describe him. And he's like Cruella de Vil, evil queens in Disney movies. You know, all the evil Disney villains that there are. He's just like that with zero nuance associated with him. Now that makes some sense if you're Irish, if you're looking at the 17th century Ireland and the history of colonialism in Ireland. So I'm fine with that overall. However, this is a global 21st century movie. And I find that the associations with the Lord Protector are pretty simplistic. In fact, all of the contrasts in this movie are pretty simplistic. There's English versus Irish, Christian versus pagan, townspeople, civilized people versus wild people, and adults versus children. And all of the weight of this movie, the moral weight in particular, is on one side of the contrast. Again, that's like classic Disney movies where it's a simple good versus evil tale. But in recent years, there have been a lot of nuanced children's movies, animated movies from Pixar, from Studio Ghibli, even from Cartoon Saloon, as with Song of the Sea, and Secret of Kells, for example, blends the Christian and the pagan and asks tough questions about the dividing lines between those two. This movie doesn't really do that, and if you just write it as a simple Disney tale, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen from the beginning of the movie, about 10 minutes in on towards the end. You know where this is going, and you know what side of the contrast, Christian versus pagan, civilization versus wilderness, you know what side this movie's on, and it really never lets up or complicates things. For that reason, I'm a little bit disappointed in the themes and the storyline of this movie. As well, this is a darker tale. There is a lot of crying in this movie from the main character. There is a lot of disappointment in her father, who is a weakling, who's troubled and anxious. It's a flat performance from basically all the characters, and I wish for more nuance, I suppose. Although by the ending, you get some complications with a couple of the characters. I wish there were more nuance between civilization and the wilderness, for example, between children and adults. It seems like this movie is rooting very hard for children who are right and pure and good, and all the adults are mean, nasty brutes, or, as in the case of the father, just a fearful guy, the Lord Protector being super evil, the townspeople being nasty and crude. The children are virtuous and pure, and it even has that Disney trope of the magical light emanating from people who are good, the Wolfwalkers in this movie, glowing light like Tinkerbell. So for all of those reasons, I actually don't recommend this movie. I think it disappointed my family overall, because I think we were expecting something higher from this Cartoon Saloon. If you go into this not having seen one of their movies, you probably will like this movie. If you're just looking at the artwork, the colors, and the beauty of their sort of visual creation here, this is a masterwork in that particular way. So I think most of the reviews you're going to see are going to praise this movie and give it high ratings because of the visuals. But if you look at the storyline, it's just too simplistic. It's even, you could watch it as anti-Christian or anti-English or something like that. And that is a little disturbing, because when you have a good versus evil system, as simplistic as it is in this movie, the question is always, what's your moral system? And I think this movie's moral system is weak and not very logical or not very coherent. But I think eventually people are going to watch this and be actually annoyed by the storyline and the simplicity of it. And they're going to look at Inside Out from Pixar, Coco from Pixar. They're going to look at all the Studio Ghibli movies. They're going to look at Big Hero 6 from Disney. And they're going to say, this movie, it's just not complex enough for us. It needs to go beyond sort of the 1940s, 50s trappings. And its good versus evil system is kind of silly, I think, overall. So for those reasons, I didn't like the movie that much. So I'm going to give it, and don't punish me for this, 2.5 stars out of 5. That's an average rating. But if you gave it 4 or 5 stars, I can see why, because, as I'll say once again, the visuals are so amazing in this. What I would do with this movie, I would turn off the soundtrack and I would listen to classical music while watching this movie. Forget about its sounds and its dialogue. I know they put a lot of work into the sound, but I would create my own soundtrack to this and just watch this movie for what it is. I think, to me, that's the best way to watch it. So if I'm going to rewatch a Cartoon Saloon movie, it's going to be one of their first 3 features. They can do better, and I think they will in future releases, so I hope they keep going and learn from this effort. But overall, I think this is an average movie given the stereotypes, the cliches, and that the storyline is predictable and simplistic. Now, what do you think of what I said? Be kind, because this is one perspective on the movie. You know, there are other ways to watch movies, so think about what I said and react to that. What do you have in mind? What are your comments? I'd love to hear from you all. Please leave a nice comment, an edifying comment down below. And please subscribe to this channel for more interesting reviews, honest reviews, and great content. Thank you and have a great day.